Hello, hello, hello. How we doing? I thought I would just play around a bit with the Minilog XD, which I've got here. Hello, hello.
Hi, Nick. Hey, Nick.
It's good, that, isn't it? I must admit,
It's
I've
very nice
found
to
a
hear
little bit
you.
of a a special a special thing with that. It feels like the XD was designed for me because it's so it's so atmospheric. Let me see. I'll just find the right
That
bits.
certainly was.
Hey, Rich.
Do you hear me?
I do. Yes. Can you hear me?
How does it sound?
Roomy, bright,
Better or
bright.
worse than the laptop mic?
It sounds like there's quite a lot of kind of noise shaping happening at the tail, so you can hear this kind of filtering down. Let me bring myself. Yeah,
Interesting.
it sounds like there's some sort of a thing going on there. Let's have a look. Let's try again because I'll turn it
Sure.
up a bit.
All right. Well, this is what the Sennheiser Momentum earbuds present
Ah, okay.
that, that I quite love. They're my new since Christmas toy,
It's
and they're wonderful.
it sounds like what's happening is it's noise shaping. So the ambience is being shaped at the end of every word. So you're getting a bunch of it. It's obviously compressing it up and then filtering it down as the amplitude goes down. So there's definitely,
I see.
but so it's
Do we
quite.
need to tighten up the release time?
I'm just what I could do here is I can.
Or would you like me to switch to the laptop mic? I'm fine either way.
No, I can. Let me just hold on. Keep going because what I could do is
Okay.
I can EQ you a bit. So
They say I'm very quiet in the chat room, which is very unusual for me. Although Scott's not complaining.
I would say not now. That's my.
Okay.
It may be that there are a few seconds because I've just tweaked it.
Yeah, okay. Scott might be interested to know I'm in Canada at the moment.
Scott from Canada. Rich is in Canada.
Yes. Yeah,
There
there
we
you
go.
go.
Yeah, I think it should be all right now. I mean, it feels. I mean, the level
Okay.
looks okay for me, but it
Good.
could.
It
And we
sounds
can't.
these sound fantastic, these things.
Yeah, the mic's not as
They
good
really
as perhaps the headphones are. That's what I would probably suggest. But they're okay.
that's conceivable, yeah.
It's just because you're in a big empty room, so there's quite a lot of bounce.
And there's windows right here.
Ah, okay.
So
So I guess
I'm
what's it like?
talking
It's
into
probably is it probably an Omni in the actual in one of the buds?
presumably, I don't even know.
I guess
I'm
so.
more interested in the listening side. This is the first time I've even, I think, conducted a conversation with them.
Right.
But
Yeah. Interesting.
it was worth
It's
a
no,
try,
it's
and
definitely.
it's
I suspect that the laptop the laptop mic will be less dynamic in its noise rejection because you get that kind of. You also get the auto
right.
gain, and you don't get that
Hmm.
noise shaping quite so much noise shaping. I would suggest.
I see. Well, I can switch
No,
easily.
I think it's all right. We could
Okay,
crowdsource
good.
it. Yeah, I tell you what, that XD, I love the sound of that thing. It's got a couple of algorithms in it. I mean, it's got some massive analog, reverb algorithms. But it's got this thing called submarine, which is like the opposite of shimmer, so it goes down an octave, and it's dreamy as you like. I can't stop writing mournful, atmospheric minor thirds. Yeah, it's lovely.
Very nice.
Minor thirds
Whoa,
and
minor
fifths.
thirds.
Yeah, it's really good, and because the XD has got it's got three effects engine. Hey, there's Yoad as well. Hello. I don't have you yet.
Hi.
Hello. Oh, something's happening.
I I do.
1 2 1 2.
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, there he is.
Hey.
Oh,
Wow, you've gone full beard. That was quick.
hi.
Oh, hold on. We're having a little bit of choppy video.
Signal interruptus.
Me?
Yeah, you're a bit choppy. Hard to tell. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear
Now
you
that was
too.
clear.
Yeah, that's very clear. That seems clear. I don't know because I remember you sometimes on your Wi-Fi it's a bit hit and miss.
No,
But
yeah, I know. I use the
okay,
cellular
it might be just
connection.
it might just be pushing a few other internet users out of the way, and now it's got a clear path. I think that
Okay.
might be what happened. Now it feels all right. Okay, so there we go. I've got everybody right. Yoad and Rich. Yeah, I was just playing with the Minilog XD, which has finally arrived. Have you tried that, Yoad?
No, but I really, it looks like really amazing.
Man, it sounds. If it had 8 voices, it would be almost perfect. But even with
Wow.
4, it's got plenty. You know, there's because it's just. I was saying that they've tripled the amount of DSP in it, so you've effectively got 3 quite powerful effects engines that will run simultaneously. A reverb with loads of
Hmm.
algorithms that suit my vibe, and a delay and a mod, and it's really good, really really good.
Wow. So many synths.
I know it's getting very hard. And literally yesterday I finished the review of the Micro Freak, which I also really like. Which is again, you know, I've got 3 on the go. I've got the Micro Freak, which is again a hybrid synth. I mean, it's mostly on the digital side with the digital oscillators. We've got the Minilog XD, which has got digital oscillator on top of the other 2 analogs, and then I've also got the Delta SEP, which is the Radical Engineer, which are 3 heavily on the digital synths, and so I'm doing all 3 at the moment. And I've just, like I said, just the Micro Freak and the Mini. So far, the Minilog XD wins the kind of connection. It's like it really kind of just reached in and went, "Hey, you're gonna like," because I love the Minilog, and the XD just seems even more Miniloggy, if
Hmm.
that's possible. So yeah, really good. Okay, so
Wow.
we have everybody here. Yeah, it's a bit of one of those weeks. It seems like there's a period now, early spring, because everybody does everything at NAMM and a little bit besides. It just goes quiet before Super Booth, I guess, which is in a couple of weeks. So not much on the news front,
Mm.
although
I'm just
yeah,
sent you like a
some news.
slideshow of my studio. Yeah, no, no. It's
Oh,
just my studio. I just finished connecting all the synths and everything. Everything is now connected.
all right, okay. Well,
And
that's always good.
Congratulations. May it all work.
Yeah.
oh,
Oh,
thank
yeah. I
you,
see it.
thank you.
Can I show it? Is it something I can show?
Yeah, why not?
So there we go. Let's see if
If
I
you
can make
think
that.
it's not very good quality, but the
Oh
pictures, I
wow!
mean,
Is that a
Very
screen
nice.
a
Very nice.
screen in the ceiling?
yeah.
Is that for when you're lying on the floor and you've had enough? You just like lie and look up.
No, it's no, it's on a remote control, so you can kind of
Bring it down. Right. Okay. Yeah.
change. Yeah,
Oh, nice. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. That's look
That
right.
took
So
a
now I
lot
get
of
to see
work.
all. Yeah, I'll bet. Now I get to see all of the stuff. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to come visit.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's only some of the scenes. I didn't have room for everything, but
Well, of course. How
there's
could
some
you?
stuff. Yeah.
That's great.
Hey, hey, Nick,
Yeah.
related to topics, I have 2 questions for you. Have you spoken yet about XO by XLN Audio, the new XO product?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, and have you spoken about the new Antelope Audio microphone?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I'm
those
gonna
are
look it
both
up
things
now.
that caught my eye in the last couple of days.
Okay.
There's also a Mac Rumors thing about the 16-inch MacBook Pro not coming for a couple of years on Mac Rumors.
That's sort of news about no news. That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, that's news about speculation. It's true, but the other
Well,
2 are actual real things.
as is most of the other stuff that I've managed to find. Okay. What was the other
Yeah,
one?
absolutely. But you were asking for topics, and
Yeah. What was
the
it? So
XO thing
Antelope
is fascinating to me. This
XO
XO product looks amazing.
XO Audio, is it?
XLN Audio, you know, the
Oh, XLN. Okay.
addictive people, you know.
XLN Audio XO. Okay. Let's have a look.
It
Ooh.
basically is a very advanced databasing program that will take all of your sample libraries of one shots and categorize them according to what they believe are similarities.
I think we did
and allow
talk
you
about
to
this.
group them and play them.
Yeah, I think we talked about this, but they've recently updated it, haven't they, to make it even more kind of so you get like a word cloud of your samples.
Well, and furthermore, now they've got all kinds of interesting sequencing options and ways you can use it to create beats right within the software using the sounds that you're selecting. And it does a lot of very fancy kind of sequency arpeggiator things kind of.
Okay.
It's cool.
All right.
It's
Well,
way cool.
All right. Well, let's see how we go. Okay. Right. I think we could do a show, which would be great. Because it's not where I was about 2 hours ago. I was thinking, what can I do this afternoon? Unfortunately, it started raining. Okay, right. Stand by, everybody. Oh, wait a sec. Let me get my Facebook feed up and ready. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk episode. Oh, what is it? It's actually episode 574, recording today, live Wednesday, the 24th of April, 2019. This is the show that's dedicated to all things to do with music technology, synthesizers, software, workflow stuff, studio stuff, live production, all kinds of things that relate to the business of making music and distributing music and many other things besides. So I want to welcome a couple of guests who stepped in. I know they're both very busy, and it's one of those weeks that falls between everybody's about to go somewhere and do something else. But I appreciate you both taking the time to join me. We'll start with Mr. Rich Hilton, who is actually on the road at the moment. I believe you're in where in the world are you, Rich? Can people guess from your hotel room?
I'm in lovely Ottawa, Canada.
Right now, okay.
Where we will perform tonight, opening for Cher, the inimitable Cher, here in the hockey rink where the Ottawa Senators play, the name of which escapes me, the corporate name of which escapes me. And then we will travel a great distance tonight to Port Chester, New York, where we will play as headliners tomorrow night and do a full Chic show. And then the following night, we join back up with this tour in Buffalo and continue that. Wow,
that sounds like one of those logistical challenges, shall we say. I mean, hey-ho for hooray for hiring keyboards, right? So you're just traveling with your USB stick and your portable rig, right? Or have you got more stuff with you?
Well, as relates to the Cher tour, it's all the same. The gear travels. It's multi-truck, big production extravaganza, and the gear travels, and so that's easy. The gear I get in Port Chester will be gear I haven't played lately, but I've undoubtedly played before, and won't be a problem. So, from my standpoint, for the drummer, for example, it's a bit more of a thing, and because he's got the same kit on all the gigs at Cher's tour, but this is going to be a different kit. And for the guys who have amplifiers and things like that, there's a few more variables. But for me, once loaded, an RD700 GX is pretty much the same anywhere you play it, as long as it's positioned properly.
Right. Okay. Do you? Now, here's a question. I mean, I guess you get like higher stuff. You have higher stuff. Do you sometimes see the same one coming back to you that you recognise from a little sort of distinguishing mark?
Not only do I walk up on 700 GXs I don't know that I've seen before and find programs from 7-8 years ago that I left in them, but one time I showed up to the North Sea Jazz Festival in Rotterdam to a set of keyboards that already had my sounds in it, and they told me that they had my sounds in it from Curacao.
Wow.
Because, that's a Dutch colony, and apparently the gear for that gig in Curacao had been rented from Holland and now was showing up in front of me on a stage in Holland, so there's just not a lot of guys using this thing that I use that much. And so quite often I find that some version of my show is still resident in the memory of the instrument. Hello? Oh no. Have I lost you guys? Oh, you're still there. Okay, good. I
Yeah.
thought I was out. Oh, Nick. Wow. That's wacky. It rarely happens that we're still on and he's not. So let's have a
Okay.
show. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's have a show. What do you want to talk about?
What's new with you, Yoad? I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. Your studio looks great. Can't wait to come see it.
No, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
I'll be
Well, you're always welcome.
I'll be in the general UK-ish world in June, much of July, and some of August.
Oh, that's nice. So yeah, we should definitely hook up.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, I don't quite have a schedule yet, but we're getting there. We have a lot of.
Well, I hope you get a few. I hope you get a few free days or evenings or something.
The way it stacks up right now, there are a couple of spots where there are 2 or 3 days in between gigs where it's not worth shipping us home, and that would be good social opportunity time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good time to be in the UK, June, July. Mm-hmm. Should be nice.
So what I'm curious about is what happened to Nick, and are we still broadcasting to the people who are writing to me in the chat room? Do you guys in the chat room hear us now? Now it's going to be about 8 seconds before they respond.
Well, I think we're live.
Anyway.
Let's try to make it interesting.
Isn't that exciting? I'm ready to break out my Rolly Seaboard block and start playing. I'll
grab a guitar.
Yeah, there
we
you go.
We can do an 8 seconds latency blues.
That's funny. I have to go over a drone. So yes, we're still broadcasting. Yes, they can still hear me.
Oh, nice. Okay, so let's talk about something interesting. Well,
I'm kind of embarrassed to do the show without Nick. Quite honestly, it's Nick's show. Maybe I don't know, because it's possible that he can't reinitiate it unless we hang up. Yeah, they all want me to break out the Rolly. That's good.
Let me check my email, see if you wrote anything.
Sorry that I'm not really up to hosting this show, guys. I wish I was, but I didn't even think I was going to be on it a couple of hours ago. I don't want to do the topics without Nick. There's Nick.
Oh, there he is.
Furiously trying to figure out
that's weird.
What the hell is going on.
That's like a crashed input. I do beg your pardon. Gosh. Well, you could tell it's live, folks, because, yeah, well, there we go. I don't know what else to say. That was a bit useless. Did I miss anything? I guess we should probably say hello to Yoad after that short break. Sorry to interrupt your flow there, Rich. We also got Mr. Yoad Navo from Waves, and who's a producer. In fact, I don't know if you saw, he sent over this lovely slideshow of a studio which has been recently set up in London. Which has been a big move. I won't play the whole thing because I've just wasted so much time scrabbling around behind the rack. That's really curious. So, how are you, Yoad? You're in Tel Aviv at the moment, right? So you're on Waves time.
Waves time, exactly.
And how's the production and music side of things going as well? Are you still busy? Busy?
Yeah. I was really busy for a few weeks since my last visit here. And it's always a nice break, even though I work really hard when I'm here as well, but it's on kind of a different mindset. So so it keeps me on my toes, and it's I really like doing both kind of jobs, producing records and making products, basically, which is
one thing that's interesting to me, because I find quite often, if I'm doing a lot of interesting like coding work, which I've been doing recently with for workflow for Superbooth, and then I have to flip to go into creative mode, which is a different kind of creative mode, which is more to do with reviewing and whatnot. If there's this transition period, have you managed to shorten that down to be quite quick, or can you flip quite quickly between the two?
Well, I've been doing it for so long that when I get here, I'm just getting into the waves mode instantly, and if I don't, I'm very quickly reminded, because I immediately dive into ideas and arguments and things to do and
So you get there
features
quick,
and
yeah.
deadlines and things like that. So you're right in it. You're right in it.
No, I get it. I don't know. Do you get the same thing, Rich? I mean, because when you're in the studio, is there a different sort of routine and a different way of working than obviously live is a very different pace, isn't it? Because it's a lot of waiting around and whatnot.
Well, there's so little similar about them. My live life and my studio life.
Yeah, I suppose.
Where do you want to begin? There's almost nothing about them that's similar, including the way I apply music skills to the task. Live is a completely different kind of event communication that takes place with a whole huge number of people in our case lately, or with a dozen people, but in any case it takes place with more than just you and more than you and those other three people you might be doing the session with. So it's a larger ensemble to deal with to begin with, and then the whole process of what you're doing and how you choose to do it is probably different. Not too many of my recording projects involve putting 9 people in a room and having them playing music together. Quite honestly, I wish it did involve it more, but it doesn't.
Does stuff happen? Because I mean, sometimes obviously while you're on the road, there might be work that's happening, you know, that you might need to be involved in. So you're flipping between studio and then live within the same day as well.
There is some of that. I'm happy to say that there's less of it for me than there once was, and that somebody else who's wonderful and a dear friend is handling most of that. But yes, occasionally I'm presented with recording work to do, or other kinds of logistical work, organizational work, company contact, whatever. There's things that come up for work that don't involve the stage show, absolutely, in terms of the job. But mostly it's a pretty wonderfully isolated, insular, just go and do the best possible show you can every time kind of life right now. And I love that.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. That must be really great fun. Actually, while we're on the subject of great fun, I wanted to say it's happy birthday to Tony Visconti, who I believe I think he's 70.
Oh, yeah.
Is it 74 today? 76 plus
could
3, 70 maybe. I think 73. Okay. And I thought, because Rich, you brought this up, and I was thinking, wow, because I really love some of the Tony Visconti stuff, particularly the T-Rex, that sound, the kind of echo on the drums and the massively compressed acoustic guitar. He was a real kind of pioneer with some of the sounds. And I thought, I'll just have a look on Wikipedia and see what he's been up to. These are the album credits only for starting in 1968. Actually, no, I don't know if it's 68. Yeah, 68, and it starts in 68 with My People. I'm sure there was stuff before then. So it's T-Rex. And then David Bowie, and then there's just so much of it. It's just incredible. What an incredible workload that guy has.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's from Brooklyn, New York.
Is he really? No, I
didn't
know that.
He moved to England and became all that. I mean, I'm sure he was some version of all that before he left, but when he got there and started working with Mark Bolan and David Bowie, that was really groundbreaking stuff on the order of, like formative, groundbreaking stuff that kind of runs all the stuff that comes after it. And in my own particular world, he also worked with with Gentle Giant on their first 2 albums, which is very, very close to my heart, and I know it's close to Gaz's heart. Hi, Gaz. And the contribution that Tony Visconti has made musically to our culture is inestimable. And we had the great privilege once of playing a show in New York City in Central Park that he mixed the front of house for.
Wow, he does that as well.
It was a tremendous privilege. Yeah, It's a tremendous privilege to have him working with us and getting to thank him for all the great work he's done and meet May Pang, who was with him at the time, and talk about their family and introduce them to my family. And it was really cool.
Oh, nice. Yoad, I guess, I don't know does Tony Visconti live in London? Is he kind of a man about town?
I'm not sure.
I don't know if he is or not either.
I'm not sure.
Okay, he has a university position in England.
Okay, all right.
He has a university position in England and a studio named for him at that university. And I think he kind of goes back and forth between the teaching life and the playing life. He's actually performing quite a bit with Woody Woodmansey, the drummer from the early Bowie band, and they're doing a sort of a Bowie tribute of their own, pretty much up and down the UK.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I understand it.
Oh, right, cool.
But he lives in various places, I believe.
Yeah. Well, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? I know. Yeah. I mean, some of those sounds he came up. I mean, I was listening to the T-Rex stuff, and it's outrageous. That slapback echo all over the drums, but not somehow on the cymbals. It must have taken quite a lot of technique and gating and kind of just the way to let that through in a time when automation wasn't even available, right?
Yeah, and things like David Bowie low, which sounds amazing, and that snare sound with the Eventide harmonizer feeding back, that thing on the snare and the whole drum kit there. It's like it's unbelievable. It's really. I saw him giving a talk on the Reeperbahn Festival a couple of years ago, and he was really interesting, and he's such a nice kind of modest and down to earth. I haven't met him in person, but I'm a really big fan.
I mean, the musical language he sort of developed is, in terms of production, is astonishing. But anyway, I just want to say happy birthday, really. It was an excuse to
happy birthday
to kind of go over that. Excuse me. Oh, right. So I was trying to find. Oh, no, this is what I wanted to hear. Just there's a drum fill in this that is. I think it's coming up. This I'm going to get busted for this. I think it's coming up, if I found it correctly. This is T-Rex, which will... No, I think I missed it, but that's classic Visconti. Anyway, the other thing that I found... there's many other parts of his repertoire, of course, but that's early.
Scary Monsters. Is it that? I mean,
Absolutely.
all of the Bowie... First of all the trilogy of Low, Heroes, and Lodger are fantastic, but then Scary Monsters is a masterpiece.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
There's been
good.
so many masterpieces.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Anyway, let's get on to the Novation base station update. This was the Aphex Twin update. Firmware 4.14. You don't get to say that very often with mono synths, do you? That's for sure. That they really. So this is an intro. I mean, there's a quite a long video with Chris Calcutt, who's got the unenviable task of having to explain how it works. But essentially, what you're able to do is create an overlay. I think it's an octave where you have because the thing about the base station, it's got very, very fast patch changes. So you can sequence patch changing, and it's got super fast, and it's the ability to then put a patch on each key. I don't know if there's a bit on the video. I think he plays it later on.
Okay, so now we have where.
Let's see.
But the parameter.
Let's see if I can.
Great thing that we can do with the AFX mode is, whilst the sequencer is local.
I can't find the bit that I needed to. I was hoping to download the videos, but my video downloader is broken. But this is quite an interesting thing. Yoad, I don't know. Have you've got? Sorry, Rich.
Which part were you? I mean, I just watched pretty much the whole thing. Which part were you talking about?
The bit where
when it splits the
when it
drums,
splits the drums, and you can have a sound per key because the program changes so fast on it.
Well, that's the whole video. The whole video is about having a sound per key across the entire.
Yeah.
Each key can have its basically own face plate patch assigned to it and set up as such, and then you can use the sequencer to do fancy things with various combinations of them.
Yeah, no, it's pretty nifty. I was just looking for the bit that demonstrated it. I know you've got a bunch of Novation stuff. Have you got a base station 2, Yoad?
I've got a base station 2, and I was watching this video, and I was thinking to myself, oh God, now I have to learn all these shortcuts and shift elbow and all that. And I was just like, if I wanted to have 8 drum sounds, I think I can find another way of getting 8 drum sounds on a keyboard without having to program all that, because it seems like a nightmare. I mean, obviously it's a cool feature, and I welcome it, and it's very nice that they support such an old. I mean, it's probably like 5-6 years old now, and it's very cool that they support it, and it sounds great. And I have noticed in the past that it changes programs really quickly, and you can
really
almost
fast.
kind of sequence it in. You can find obviously other ways. Maybe maybe easier ways of doing it, like just in Logic or something, program a sequence of program changes with the perspective keys. You know what I mean? So you can kind of do it maybe in a more screen-based, screen and mouse-based way. But no, it's cool. I love this synth, and for people who have time to mess with stuff like that, then I'm sure it's hours of fun, literally.
That's a very diplomatic way of putting it. But yeah, I get your point. I know what you mean. I mean, the amount of functionality they put in this, I mean, not only have we had, they've split off the sub-oscillator now, so you can tune that separately. So effectively you've got three VCOs or DCOs, I think they are on this. There's also different portamento rates on the oscillators 1 and 2, so you get, which you can do on a number of synths, and that's a really nice thing to be able to do. It's especially good on polysynths, isn't it? But do you get much Novation stuff over your side of the woods? I mean, I guess it's the sort of thing that you probably wouldn't be playing live in your Chic work, but maybe something you might, because they do a load of controller stuff as well. But the base station is a bit of a classic.
I've never interacted with this synth personally that I can recall. I might have put a hand down on it, but I've never spent any time on it. And I did have at one time a SL61 controller of theirs that is a whole story unto itself. But I didn't find it. There are a couple of operational aspects of this that are a bit fiddly, but ultimately, once you get set up properly, I thought the programming and assigning of the sounds to the individual keys was actually quite easy. And the way he was demonstrating the way it interacted with their arpeggiator did bring it into some sort of somewhat unique area. And for somebody who doesn't have a room full of synths, and who might not have another good way to get multiple different kinds of analog drum patches together and has one of these sitting around, I can imagine that this would be very useful. And as Yoad pointed out, the fact that they're supporting a 5 or 6 year old operating system and a hardware piece and a monophonic, sort of mid to low priced hardware piece is very admirable. And I thought it sounded good and it seemed to work well. And yeah, it's a little bit fiddly, but if that's all you had, you'd be happy to.
What I wonder is how, I mean, when they built this, obviously they've built some spare capacity in whatever the OS is stored in, so it's got room to grow and breathe because they've added quite a lot of stuff to it. And I wonder when you're building hardware, how much of that you build in. It must be quite kind of challenging because you wouldn't overspecify generally because it includes your costs, increases your parts cost because a bit extra memory here and there does add. Because I was on the Minilog XD, which I've been looking at to review. I was messing with the digital oscillator, which you can, and there is a fixed 32K of memory in there. And if they just put 64 or 128K, imagine the expansiveness you could do with creating those digital oscillators, which can then be user loaded in. But I guess that's just having that ability to add that stuff. It must be very tempting, right?
I think since it's a relatively modern synth, I think that the technology that they've used is probably an overkill in terms of the CPU and memory and all that to just, if they were just using stock components, they'll be so powerful these days. It's not the days of Poly 800 and things like that, which were just starting to use digital components properly and doing programming and patches and things like that. I think that even on an iLock you can load so many licenses, more than you can ever afford in terms of having to buy them. I don't think that these days this is a factor, and for a fraction, for 2 more cents per unit or something, you can probably double the memory because we're talking about very, very small memory sizes anyway.
I suppose you're right, yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting, and this sort of follows along because Novation are pretty much kind of the market leaders when it comes to firmware updates of old equipment across the range. They don't do it all, but Circuit certainly gets a load of stuff. I think the Monostation did, and Circuit's completely transformed itself from when it first came out, and that is a complicated piece of equipment. So, it's got a lot of potential there. But yeah, good on them. I think you could download that for nothing. A version 4.14 AFX mode and various other things that it comes with. I think what I'll just do will quickly have a quick mention from Softube. I want to tell you about Parallels. So here it comes. This is the new software synthesizer from Softube, which takes a lot of their excellent modelling stuff that's come out attached to their modular system, but also samples a whole bunch of quite complex wavetables from some really rare and unreleased synthesizers that evolve over time. So you get very high quality pre-recorded sounds that scan beautifully with lots of different harmonic content. There's almost 100 high quality pre-recorded waveforms, lots of sonic progression between each one for near infinite source material, and 2 parallel sources. Means that you can blend sounds, opening up exponentially more possibilities. Up to 14 voices, 7 per source when both are active, hundreds of presets from various world-leading artists, 3 analog model filter types, state variable, Vactwell, LPG, and resonant peaks, as well as 5 sophisticated types of modulation source. You can get hold of this if you just head over to Softube now. I think the offer is over, but well worth checking out, and I hope you get to try it out yourself. Right, what was the other thing that we had? Oh yeah, who wants... see if I can find this. I know that... Oops, I've just started that one. Now, where is it? This is a great one. I know, Yoad, I know that you started out as a guitarist, perhaps a bit of a shredder, so this may well appeal to you massively, because this is a live 24/7 stream of death metal that's AI generated from... That's pretty unpleasant to listen to, but the whole thing is built via a neural network. And the idea is, what it is, I won't play that because it is, death metal's not my genre, so I'm not going to be able to appreciate it. But it's a really clever bit of coding that's taking... what they do is they've taken a sort of back catalogue of a particular artist. I'm not sure who that is in this particular case. And they've sampled lots of bits, and then they've taught the process called sample RNN, which is a neural network. I think it's neural synthesis, that resequences it and rewrites it on the fly, and that's a 24/7 stream that's just happening live from this source material. But they also do it so it creates individual songs and also creates the artwork as well. But it's a bit different. It's slightly different use of AI because it's using actual source audio material and sampling and slicing it up that way. I don't know whether, we've talked about this as whether it's feasible to create emotive, beautiful music. Well, this is a slightly different genre and using a slightly different technique. I wonder if there's any kind of interesting technology in there that might move into wider synthesis, perhaps.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. I mean, first, I would say that I wouldn't want to find myself locked in a room listening to that video for 24 hours.
It's 24/7 forever. It's just always
forever.
on.
Exactly. No, I don't think I will last more than 24 hours. But yeah, I mean, the way to look at it is basically, if you look at it's basically the window size or the sample size that you use. So if you use individual samples and you sequence them, then you create an oscillator. But if you zoom out and you sequence bigger chunks of PCM, then you're dealing with first you go through wavetable synthesis or granular synthesis, where you loop small sections. And then if you zoom out even more, then you'll be dealing with samples. And once you do that, you can find ways of sequencing those bits or samples in several ways, and you can, if you think about the logic behind that, you'll be able to quite easily find the mechanism in your mind. At least it's much more harder to turn it into code that actually works, but you'll be able to find the processes that will lead to something that kind of makes sense musically. So there's a kind of a logical path to that. And the machine just performs that.
And if you choose something that's harder to figure out whether it's right or not, then it's probably a lot easier to kind of, to fool the mind, I suppose. This is by a couple of guys, CJ Carr and Zach Zukowski. I mean, aside from the fact that this is quite hard to listen to, it's an interesting. I guess it's an experiment in what you can do. But this led me to another question, Rich. It's like so have you, when you were working on something, have you ever had to work on music that is actually really hard to listen to, difficult to be able to concentrate and sit in front of for however long the session may last to mix? I mean, hopefully most of us don't find ourselves in that position. We tend to gravitate generally towards the stuff we have an affinity to. So maybe if I was a death metal nut, I would be mixing that stuff. But it must be incredibly difficult to do because there's so much in there, and you've got everything. It's probably harder to mix. Have you found yourself in a situation where I guess I'm
imagining myself as some sort of ambassador of easy listening is not a particularly attractive role that I'd like to play.
I wasn't saying that that's what the case was.
However,
the
majority of my professional recording commitments have been involving music that isn't necessarily by design unpleasant to listen to, but could be at moments, at times where it's desirable. And when I'm producing, that's not even a consideration to me. I mean, I don't mind dissonance well done, and I don't mind noise well applied. I don't mind distortion when it's used interestingly. So it's not like, it's all lullabies and fairy tales over here. But
I wasn't implying that.
No, I understand, but I'm about to speak up for nothing but wonderful, beautiful consonant tonality. No, I'm not speaking up for that. I did not find it unlistenable. I spent about, 5 minutes listening to that stream that you sent us the link to, and it wasn't unlistenable to me. Does death metal as a genre interest me at all? Hell no. But it wasn't that unpleasant for me to listen to. Am I likely to tune in on a regular basis? Absolutely not. But what I want to know, and I asked this in the chat room a couple of lines ago, is why is everybody waiting breathlessly for machines to create music?
I suppose we have. I think it's probably to do with the fact that we suspect it's going to happen, and we're sort of keen to know whether it's going to be any good or if it could be any good. Before you say anything else,
that's the collaborator you've been waiting for?
No, I don't, to be honest. Rich, can I just suggest something? Something's happened to your audio device, and you're very, very choppy on the mic. What you might need to do is deconnect and reconnect your Bluetooth device, because sometimes you get that kind of weird sample rate mismatch. So while I go to Yoad, perhaps you can maybe take a look at that. It's something you can't hear, unfortunately, so it's hard to.
How about this? How about I just switch to this? Is that better?
No, that's the same, because it won't switch to that. I think you have to reconnect with the browser if you're going to do that. But that's all right. So coming back to you.
Well, you think I should reconnect Bluetooth? Okay, I'll do that.
Try that.
Go ahead, as you want.
So, Yoad, we've all done work for hire. We have to do that sort of thing. I mean, sometimes you take work because maybe, the money's good, or that it's a stepping stone to something else. And it may not be a genre that you're specifically kind of keen on. And it's quite hard. Sometimes the concentration levels that require, if you're not in your comfort zone, is quite difficult. And I imagine with death metal, unless you're familiar with it, it's going to be difficult to mix, just because there's a lot of sound in there. I mean, do you find that sometimes a mix that has too much going on, but you can't take anything out without it actually suffering? How do you face that sort of challenge?
Well, I would say that I've been I consider myself very lucky to not have, not having to. Well, when I started, I did some stuff that wasn't my cup of tea musically, and as an engineer, when you do that, it's still a challenge to make something sound good and the best that it can sound. But I think that for me it's not the style of music, and like I said, it's more the intensity of the music. So I would probably find it as hard to concentrate on a rave mix or a kind of a high energy electro. There is the genre factor. I mean, I would much rather listen to or mix kind of punk that would get to those energy level punk music or something like that is more based on rock. Maybe, well, metal is based on rock as well, but yeah, it's mostly the intensity and the kind of texture, the sonic texture of the sounds But I think that when you mix, then you don't have to start with the whole thing playing. It's very challenging in metal to work on the drum sound and to get the drums, whether you're using triggers or not, or obviously the holy grail is to not use trigger and to use just the sounds and to get the recorded sounds and to get it kind of crisp and clear with all those double kick hits and all that. And when you work on that and you make the drums sound great, and then you get the guitars in, and eventually you'll have to get the singer in, and that's where it gets a little bit more challenging, because it's the intensity of the way the singing style that for me is the most. I don't mind the drums, the even on that video, I don't mind the music, but it's the intensity of the vocal that I find sometimes, because I keep thinking to myself,
is he all right?
Of that poor guy. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of almost a medical condition, or leads to something, or something that sounds like that. So that's my. But I would be, I've never mixed something of that intensity, but it's always a challenge.
It's interesting. Oh, 1 2.
We lost you.
We lost me, have you?
Oh.
Okay. Hello, 1 2.
No, now you're back.
I'm back. Okay, I beg your pardon. I'm having a bad tech day today, aren't I? I'm wondering if. Let me just check that we've got. I seem to have lost Rich there. Have we still got you back, Rich? No, we haven't got you. I think you might need to reload the browser or check. Yeah, it is a. Tech day today. Lucky I'm not mixing metal, but I mean, when I think about it, that it is almost, you think, how would you handle a tour with that? I mean, you'd just be ruined, because as we know, vocalists have to take care of their voices all the time, and how do you take care of a voice if that's the way you deliver? I just can't imagine how you do. I mean, you must have a very short sort of shelf life as a singer, because you're just going to burn yourself out. You're going to blow your vocal cords real quick.
Absolutely.
And yes, I agree. I do feel sympathy for that. While Rich is sorting him out, let's just go to let's do the isotope thing, just because it'll fill some space, and we can announce the winner.
RX continues to be the industry standard and leader in audio repair for music and post-production. And with RX-7, we've introduced groundbreaking new ways to quickly and easily fix and manipulate audio. Take the game-changing Repair Assistant, an intelligent helper that can detect noise, clipping, clicks, hum, and more. Also new in RX-7 is Music Rebalance, a powerful source separation tool. Drums too loud? Vocals not loud enough? Let's fix that. You can also create instrumental versions of songs by removing the vocal elements. You can now alter the pitch without affecting the timing of your audio, and conversely, alter the time without affecting the pitch with the new variable time and variable pitch modules. Using the new dialogue contour, you can improve the performance of a line, or even create a new performance by altering the pitch contour of the dialogue, therefore adjusting the intonation of the speaker. And introducing Dialogue Dereverb, a module powered by machine learning to reduce the presence of reverberations around dialogue. RX-7, a new frontier in audio repair.
And you can check that out if you just go to isotope.com. They download a free demo, as always. We've also got a winner from last week's show. We're looking at DJ Raoul, whose Twitter handle is at 2EETIE. Tweety, maybe? I'm not sure how you pronounce that. I always seem to get Twitter handles that are very difficult to pronounce. That's just the way it goes. If you want to get in touch, DJ Raoul, you've won Isotope RX-7 from last week, and we have another competition for this week. We're looking for the hashtag Instant Audio Repair and the hashtag RX-7, and that's to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. That's via Twitter. The hashtag Instant Audio Repair is one word, and the hashtag RX-7 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. If you enter on Twitter, Twitter, we will be able to pick you from all the people who entered, and you stand a good chance of winning. So let's see. Have we got Rich back now? 1, 2, testing. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, I do. We're back. And we're
But
back
it's
in the room.
quieter than it was before. Is that you or is that
Is
me?
Well, it's not me, I don't think. It looks like the levels are all the same.
Okay.
So
All
maybe
right.
there's
Very good. Never mind. Are you hearing me at the same level?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're still coming
Very
in
good.
okay.
No worries then.
What else am I looking at? Right, yeah, the very sad news. Obviously, Muff Wiggler, the guy Mike McGrath, who was the founder of Muff Wiggler, passed recently. He's a really nice guy, Mike. Actually, I think we filmed a couple of videos because he used to do some presentations for Make Noise. Tip Top and Trash Audio, and so we filmed him over the years at various NAMs. I think he had a short illness, and so just quite sudden. But I mean, it goes. The Muff Wiggler forum is legendary. Lots of outpourings of kind of support because without that, I mean, it's been since about 2007, I think, and it's. Yes, it can be quite a hostile environment for the newbie, but in terms of the amount of knowledge and the amount of sort of manufacturer engagement and maybe influence that's happened over, Eurorack, that helped the rise of it, and analog synthesis. I mean, it can't be overestimated. And I don't know how many posts they've got there, but there are tens and tens of thousands of it. It's not a place that I hang out because I just don't hang out in forums. I just haven't got time. But for many people, it's like a real sense of community, and it's a very sad bit of news. I know DivKid said he'd like to have been on because he would have loved to say, how important it was to him, because I mean, he's obviously very much into modular. So I'm hoping and I'm guessing it's going to continue. And I think there's a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe. If you go over to Muff Wiggler, you'll be able to see that's maybe raising for his family and to keep the whole thing going. So sad news. I know, Richard, is that somewhere I mean, it's been around for such a long time. I must have at least been there once just from a Google search. And I've never been over. Okay. Well, that's not a problem.
May he rest in peace. Apparently, he was much loved, and I took a look at it today, and it seems that there's a tremendous number of people who are affected by this, and I feel bad for his friends and his family.
Yeah, it's a real sort of sense of community there, even though, like I say, sometimes it's a bit adversarial. But I guess maybe somewhere you keep an eye on from time to time, Yoad?
I have to say that I haven't yet, although I have a small modular system. I haven't really got into that seriously because, like Rich said, I just don't have like you said, actually, I just don't have the time. But he seems very young as well, so it's very sad.
Yeah, it is
Seems
really
like
sad.
a nice bloke.
Yeah, it is. I think there's a film of the video came out that was posted where I think I was talking to him at NAM 13, I think, and he was always traveling around the place, kind of advocating kind of modular synthesis and synthesis in general. So yeah, very sad. And I also kind of it begs the question: what happens to a resource like that when the kind of head of it goes? I mean, is he the only guy with the passwords? I mean, what this whole thing, whether or not there's, it's bound to continue. There must be a momentum enough, and the community must be able to kind of keep it going so that hopefully it'll never go away. I mean. But it's one of those. It's a real shocker. So condolences to everybody. Here we go. This is a big one. There's a new synth from UDO. Now let me see if I can find this one. Some synth news. I'm just looking for it now. Where have I put it? I can't even see. Right. News, tech news. Okay, UDO. Let me find it. I thought I had it up here, but I haven't. That's just the way. Here we are. I'll post it here. Yeah, this is news there from Bristol, actually, and it's the guy behind the Modal 008, because he had a fully formed or nearly fully formed synthesizer that he then took to Modal, and they kind of finished the production. This is it's called, now let me see if I can pronounce this right. It's a 12-voice analog synth. It's a polyphonic binaural analog hybrid with a GUI and case designed by Axel Hartmann. So, mean business. I mean, get Axel involved. It needs to be something fairly serious. So, I think they're going to be coming out in Super Booth, where we're going to first see it. We were hoping to get a trip down to their workshops and get a first call, but I think, as with many of these things, small companies, it takes a little while to get things going. But as this could be another synth. Have you another synthesizer on your shopping list?
Well, it looks interesting. I would love to hear it. I mean, but
yeah.
It reminded me of a combination of a 106 and an AN1X.
Ah,
You know,
yeah,
it has
with the blue, yeah.
yeah, it has the kind of Juno sliders, but the kind of plastic shell of um, yeah. I mean, it's very interesting the binaural the
Yeah, I don't know quite how they're going to use the binaural stuff. It's going to be an interesting challenge, I'd imagine.
approach. Basically, I think the way with an analog synth is quite easy, and it's quite simpler than what you may think, because since the analog oscillators are independent, or they should be at least, even though they're DCOs, it depends on whether you lock the phase, so they start at the same time, or you let them run in the background and just gate like an analog. Like a run free basically, and just use the gate to switch them on and off. But if that's the case, then in order to get binaural effect, what all you have to do is say it's 8 voices. It's a mode almost like a unison mode, where it plays 2 voices for each key, and then you just pan them to the left and right, and then the differences, the frequency and the fact that each oscillator is a separate card and already sounds a bit different, or should sound a little bit different, that gives you, it's like double tracking. That's something that I do sometimes with the Matrix 6.
Okay.
I just record it, and then I immediately record the same part. So I have a MIDI part playing, and I record it, and I then immediately record it again, or even let it cycle, and then chop it in half, put half of it on the left and one on the right, and then you get this binaural effect, because you have 2 different oscillators playing the same note.
Okay, right.
And it's very interesting. You could do that with a pulse, with a Waldorf pulse, with a Minimoog, of course. I recommend for people who have Minimoog or something similar, or even an SH-101, to experiment with that. Just record the part twice and pan it to the left and right. Not to mention the fact that you can record, if you have a pad or something, or even something polyphonic, you can just record the top notes, and then the middle, record each note, and then you can create and then you can pan them, you can create polyphonic parts. It takes a little bit of time, but when you think about it, if you have a part that you make with a plugin, with a VST instrument or something like that, a polyphonic part, and then you kind of replicate the sound of that on your monosynth and record it layer by layer,
Mutt Lang style,
yeah. And it doesn't take that long, because you just do it. It takes a minute, and then you end up with a bunch of regions, and then you can pan them differently, or layer them, or even change the levels and things like that. It's very interesting.
That's an interesting idea. I noticed you were nodding there, Rich. I guess it's a technique that you've used as well. I hadn't really thought about that, but I've heard it said before. But this could be interesting. I mean, I guess, it's don't show me, let me hear it kind of scenario, isn't it? I mean, hopefully we'll get that. Will be one of our first calls at Superbooth, which is May the 9th will be our first time, which will be in Berlin. I don't suppose you're going to be in Berlin around that time, Rich, are you?
In May, no. I will not be in Berlin.
That's a shame. You'd enjoy that. It's a great vibe. But yeah, I wish them luck with this. I guess a binaural synth could be kind of interesting, though, I guess, if it's got enough oscillators and to sound that different. I guess it saves you tracking time, but I don't know what they're doing with it exactly. We'll find out soon enough, right?
Yep.
So, Rich, the other thing that you brought up was the Antelope Edge modeling mic, which I know nothing about, but it's an interesting. There's a sort of new genre of mics, isn't there? These sort of, are these DSP or are they software? I'm just looking at this. Edge comes behind. Perhaps you know a little more about it than I do, because I'm flat. I haven't had time to look.
First of all, it's a USB microphone. It's a high quality, large diaphragm condenser shell that communicates over USB, and does have attendant software with a whole bunch of goodies in terms of mic modeling and things you can do. Not quite as extensive as, say, Townsend Labs' Sphere, but nevertheless offering essentially a mic closet's worth of classic mics within this one shell. And also on its own, it seems to sound really good. And I saw a review of the thing is what got me involved. and was impressed. It sounded great. It comes with a long USB cable, so you can connect it to things. And I don't know of another condenser mic of that quality with a USB port on the back of it.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how that works in terms of phase alignment and how many could you mic a kit with it if you had, several instances of it? I don't know how that would work. I suppose you could.
Well, there's also and furthermore, there's one with 2 capsules. This is the Duo, I think, and the other one's called the Quad. So they both, this one has 2 capsules and the other one has 4, and I think you can rotate them for stereo purposes. I didn't do much research on the 4, but I did listen to and admire the 2. And for Antelope, which is a company that's primarily known for its interface and clocking products, I thought it was an interesting product.
So I've interest. I mean, do either of you? I don't know, Yoad, whether do you use modelling mics? I mean, I guess if you've got access to the real thing, you wouldn't need to, but sometimes you can't take that whole thing with you. So would you reach for something like this in the right situation?
Depending on the only thing is how it sounds. That's the only question, because on the face of it, it looks great. It's a great solution. And to your question, whether if you mic more than if you use more than one mic, whether or not they'll be in sync, that's a good question, because it depends on how they've designed it. If they designed it to receive clock from the interface or from the USB port, which they can because it can lock to other drivers on the system, then they should be at least running at the same sample rate. So whether or not they'll be in phase initially, that's a different question. But it's interesting to see. I don't know how it sounds, and basically the fact that it has a USB in it, it means that the A to D is in the mic as well. So you have basically a sound card in the mic, and then you connect it via USB. And there's a limit to the quality of A to Ds that you can run off a power of a USB bus. It's not very powerful, so it's very hard to get transformers and things like that working on a 5 volt with limited power. So I'm not sure, but it looks interesting, and it could definitely. I don't know what costs and all that. It's
oh dear, we're losing a little bit there.
Something. Sorry.
That's all right. I'll just come back to Rich while the line's clear. That's an interesting thought, though, isn't it? It is going to be down to whether the USB can power a decent enough. I guess it's going to be.
I'm not 100% sure how this thing is powered. That's what I was just going to look at. Because there may be, for example, I have the microphone I usually use on this podcast is powered from an internal battery that is recharged from the 48 volt input.
This says it's 48 volt DC phantom power. So I'm trying to figure out.
So I don't remember what the connections are that get that in there. And that's what I was kind of now dialing up their website to take a look at. The physical design of the microphone and how they would be getting power into it. I'm pretty sure there's a separate power input to the microphone. I think you have to power it. I don't think it powers over USB.
Maybe there's an XLR connector as well.
There is an XLR connector as well. Connector. It's about $1,000, this one, the Duo, I think, by the looks of it, Edge Duo.
Mm-hmm.
But there is.
Well, I have to try it.
The Antelope audio interfaces, they're really high end. I mean, they're top drawer kind of DSP powered interfaces that are quite expensive. I mean, or not expensive, but they're at the higher end of the price market. And they're up there with your Apollos and beyond. So I mean, they've obviously, and they've got a really long history of working with DSP inside those DSP powered audio interfaces, but they haven't quite broken through perhaps in the same way that UA and perhaps some of the other ones do. So even though they interface directly,
they're known for their high quality interfaces and not necessarily for their plugins, which this actually is. It's just a plugin. So you have a mic, which I presume is quite transparent or as much as possible, and then you run it through a plugin basically.
Yeah, and I guess you have to have a reference so that the everything that you do, it knows it's modifying what it's modifying first. But I don't, Rich, have you used any of the kind of modeling mics or mics that have multiple characters in the past?
I haven't actually used them. I've been quite interested to try out the Sphere by Townsend Labs
Yeah, that's supposed to be very
previously.
good.
And I'm now kind of interested to try out this one. I'm not desperately in need of a microphone right now, but if I were going to buy one microphone, there is a possibility I would end up buying a modeling microphone because it gives you the options of having more than one kind of sound coming from the thing. Now, again, as Yoad says, it's down to how does it sound. And in the demos that I've heard, both the Sphere microphone and this thing sounded fantastic. So I was encouraged enough to want to hear them.
It's interesting, isn't it?
That,
I wonder. Yeah, I wonder what the barrier is. I mean, you know, it's more of it's more fiddly than just plugging a mic into a mixing desk and recording and going. But there must be a point at which you just kind of go, well, it's a no-brainer. There's no point in considering. The $5,000 U47 or the C12 because I just there's so few of them around and I don't want to drop it. I'm not going to take it on the road. So there's a point at which you just go, yeah, we'll use those instead. But it has to be, I guess, like you say, it's got to be the sound, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The sound and like you say, the reliability of the mic that you're going to plug it and it's going to work. And if you have a recording session or something, you just want to know that it works. That's it's very important.
I guess so. You're not running into those sort of problems with a C12 or a C24 that's sort of 50, 60, 70 years old and you haven't got the drivers for it anymore. That's not going to happen, is it? I guess. Fortunately,
yeah, but you may have to change the bulb or something, or these old mics. I have a couple of good old mics, and they require maintenance occasionally.
Yeah. Oh, and it's okay. So here's a question: as we're on mics, you've got the choice of one mic. What do you choose, Rich? And that's it. You got it. That's all you can use. You can only have one microphone.
Are we on a desert island now with a power supply or without a power supply?
With a power supply. The power supply.
With the power supply. With 48 volts on a desert island?
Yeah.
I'd probably look into one of these modeling microphones at this point because they're available. I mean, 10 years ago, I would have given you a different answer, but right now, it'd probably end up being one of these modeling microphones because it gives you the largest number of options for a single device.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Okay. Right. Over to you, Yoad. What you've only got one mic. What is it?
You know what? Lately, I've been using the Aston Spirit. Not lately, actually, since it came out, because I helped James Young and the guys at Aston to define the mic a little bit. I really like that mic, and I recently, just because I was trying to do something quickly with this Swedish artist. We were recording vocals, and he had this guitar riff that he wanted to play on a nylon string, and he's really tall, and the mic was up here, and he actually grabbed the guitar and played it, and that I was always recording vocals with this mic, and the guitar sounded really, really good, and so I'm gonna try to record some more stuff with it rather than just vocals. But I'm really pleased with that mic. It sounds crisp, and it's not very expensive at all. I would say, there's obviously the 87, the U87, which is good for everything. You can record drums with it. You can obviously record vocals and everything that you can think of. It's pretty versatile. It's a large diaphragm and all that. And but the Aston gives it a good run. Yeah. I'm quite pleased with that mic.
Interesting. We actually gave. I think Aston got an award for I can't remember what it was at NAMM, but it was for the Stealth, which is the multi kind of pattern, multi format cardioid, not cardioid, but dynamic microphone, which I've been trying to get hold of them because I wanted to try it on the podcast just to see what it is. So you got various settings for sort of more suited for it's phantom powered dynamic because it's got preamp characteristics. It's just an interesting concept, and I'd like to try it out, but I haven't been able to yet. Okay, well, thank you very much for that, chaps. I think we're probably getting towards the end of the show. I want to thank you very much for stepping in. I know, Rich, you've got to head off because you're presumably heading off to your gig fairly shortly, and you've got to pack and do all of those things, right?
Indeed, I have a bus out in front of this hotel right now, and I'm due to be on it within the half hour.
Okay. Okay, Rich, well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope your gig goes well tonight, and the next 3 dates and onwards are stress-free and super enjoyable. And I hope to see you in the UK soon.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
And Yoad, thank you also again for joining us too this week. I know it's been a little slow on the news, but I feel confident we've managed to fill the time with something that was moderately interesting, at least to me. So thank you very much for giving up the time.
I think it was quite
well.
interesting.
Yeah,
always a pleasure.
Great. Well, thank you, guys. That's it for this week. Sonic Talk 574 will be available on YouTube shortly, also on the iTunes as a MP3. I want to say thank you very much to Isotope and also Softtube for supporting the show. We'll see you all next time. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye-bye.